Have you ever asked what if Spider-Man went toe-to-toe with the boys' universe? Well, we here at KRTV Marvel have wondered about that too. So, we made this video for you guys to talk about just that. Now, let's dive right into it. To make things simpler, we decided to only cover one-on-one matchups. As such, we're going to have the wall crawler face off with certain characters from the boys' universe individually. Apart from that, we're just going to focus on each member of the Seven's second iteration minus Starlight, since, you know, Starlight is basically a hero, and there are tons of formidable supes and non-supes in their universe that it would take too long to cover them all here. Lastly, we're going to stick with the comic book versions of the characters, so don't expect to see Carl Urban banging with Tom Holland up in here. With our ground rules set, let's first look at our first face-off. You probably all know it by now. A-Train is pretty much the Flash analog of the boys' universe. That is to say, he's a speedster. He runs really fast, and he arguably kickstarted Huey Campbell's whole journey in the boys' comics. Now, here's the thing. A-Train might be a speedster, but he's not quite on the level of someone like DC's Flash. Whereas the Scarlet Speedster could be described as the metahuman manifestation of speed itself, thanks to being an avatar of the Speed Force, A-Train falls short from reaching that sort of level. Instead, the boy's very own fleet-footed pervert is more akin to a dude like Marvel's Pietro Maximoff, aka Quicksilver. In other words, we could say that A-Train's ceiling reaches that of supersonic speeds. So he's basically as fast or slightly faster than a speeding bullet. All that said, Spider-Man might not be as fast as A-Train, but he has a few things going for him that ultimately edges out the boy's Running Man. First and foremost, there's his spider senses, which pretty much allows Pete to get the jump on any impending threat. Then, there's the fact that the wall crawler has got reflexes akin to a prime Steph Curry's handles. Pair those two together, and you have a skill set that could match A-Train's super speed. But then, A-Train doesn't have the same kind of sly, tactical mindset that Peter has. Suffice it to say that his fight IQ leaves more to be desired. So, with all of these things considered, Pete could come out on top if he fights A-Train like a counterpuncher. Simply put, Spider-Man can dance around A-Train until he finds an opening and smashes him with a well-placed strike. In fact, Peter has already done this to Quicksilver within the Marvel U, so doing it to an untrained predatory white boy should be a cakewalk. Now, let's have the wall crawler face off against the Seven's very own Aquaman parody, The Deep. And there's really not much else to say here other than the fact that Peter would absolutely torch this deep sea sex pest. Now, a lot of fanboys like to flaunt that characters, like Aquaman and Marvel's Namor, are actually walking superweapons thanks to how they pretty much call 70% of the world their domain. But 30% of 510.1 million kilometers squared is more than enough space for Peter to swoop in, web up the Deep's aquatic booty, and freaking bake him in the sun while trapped in Pete's webbing. So, again, we're giving this matchup to Pete. Lamplighter. He's basically a child-hating version of the mutant Pyro. That is to say, this dude can control fire and burn his enemies with it, which was exactly what he did to Greg Mallory's grandkids. But those kids don't have superhuman quickness like our boy Pete. So, if Lamplighter ever stepped up to the friendly neighborhood web-slinger of the House of Ideas, chances are he'll be hitting nothing but air before Spidey closes the distance and knocks his lights out. Finally, we get a bit of a challenge when it comes to pitting Spidey against the Seven's Martian Manhunter parody, Jack from Jupiter. In a nutshell, Jack from Jupiter's power could be best explained as being similar to that of Marvel's Luke Cage. Specifically, Jack has impenetrable skin. But here's the caveat. Jack from Jupiter's power requires him to utter the magic word Carpo to activate it. He can fly too, but that's really a non-factor these days. That said, we can think of a variety of ways that Pete could deal with this creepy bald SOB. On one hand, Spidey can preempt Jack from even activating his invulnerability by shutting him down with a well-placed web shot to the mouth. On the other hand, let's say that Jack is able to come in with his impenetrable skin already activated. It might seem like an interesting matchup at first glance, but here's the thing. Aside from the ability to fly and his magic word-activated invulnerability, Jack really doesn't have anything else going for him. And again, only Jack's skin is impenetrable. That means Spider-Man has 9 orifices to work with if he wanted to take this guy down. Hell, Pete could even give him a 3-piece with soda if he's feeling particularly saucy. Then again, it can be argued that the creep might enjoy it if Spidey decided to make him airtight. In any case, it's a W for our boy Mr. Parker here. Alright, here we go. We're entering the championship rounds now. Here we have Queen Maeve, the Wonder Woman analog of the boys' premier superhero team. As far as her power set goes, she's a bit vanilla to be honest. She's got that super strength, durability, and flight. Basically the fundamental abilities you'd find in a superhero. Queen Maeve is pretty much an alcoholic. Kinkier version of legendary power forward Tim Duncan, is what we're trying to say. But, unlike every other member of the 7 we've mentioned so far, she's not an idiot, which is already a step up if she's fighting against Spider-Man. Now, we can honestly say that it would be interesting to see Queen Maeve and the Wallcrawler duking it out in close quarters. Although we think the Wallcrawler would easily make this Wonder Woman parody look like a dope thanks to Spidey's quickness. But then, we can also look at the fact that Queen Maeve is arguably the only 7 member aside from Annie January who's not an all-out scumbag. That is to say, she's more akin to a tragic hero looking for redemption as far as the boys' lore goes. Given that, it's not hard to imagine that Spidey wouldn't necessarily try to give Maeve the business. It's more likely that he'd just end up subduing Maeve while doing as little damage to her person. And in fact, we've already seen Spider-Man punk a superheroine who's otherwise out of his league. Case in point, that time he slipped a spider capsule in Captain Marvel's mouth and absolutely throated her with piping hot webbing. And now, we come to perhaps the 7's only big gun. You already know it. He's the insane version of Superman with mommy issues and a thing for delicious milk, Homelander. Now, Homelander pretty much shares the same superpowers as his DC Comics counterpart, except for the ice breath. Given that, we've already seen a bout like this go down within the pages of the classic DC Marvel crossover, Superman vs. the Amazing Spider-Man. In that story, Spidey needed a bit of help from external forces to weaken Clark enough for him to even damage the last son of Krypton. And boy, did Spider-Man know he was absolutely outclassed without the aid of radiation from a red sun to soften up Clark. So, although it's a hard pill to swallow that Spidey could lose to a guy like Homelander, we have to call it as it is, and give this mommy-loving, superpowered psychopath his due. If it's a straight fight between Homelander and the Wallcrawler, then we hope first responders have a spider-shaped body bag in hand for his inevitable L. And it's not like the Wallcrawler's trademark quips would even work to throw Homelander off his game. As we've seen time and again, talking smack to Homelander is akin to effing with Khabib Nurmagomedov.
It is what it is. Hey, just send me a message where I'm gonna come.
Now, if there's any one member of the 7 who could absolutely destroy Spider-Man, it's this guy. If you aren't aware of it already, the original version of Black Noir from the comics is as far as you could steer away from his interpretation within the Boys live-action web series. In the comics, Black Noir is a clone of the Homelander, except he's way more insane than the leader of the 7, whereas Homelander can be described more as an egotistic megalomaniac with anger management issues. Black Noir is as close to a high-functioning psychopath as you could go. What we're saying is that he's smart. In fact, it was eventually revealed in the comics that Black Noir was the one who pretty much orchestrated the whole debacle between the boys and the 7. And you know what, guys? He all did it to get to Homelander. That's because Black Noir isn't just your typical clone. He's actually a copy of Homelander specifically designed by Vought American as a countermeasure against their Golden Boy if he decided to become disobedient. In other words, Black Noir's sole purpose was to take out Homelander, and he did it in absolutely brutal fashion. So, let's break it down. Here, we have a jacked-up, super insane clone of a guy who already has the skill set to definitively dunk on Spider-Man, and he's got shady tactical chops to boot. So, yeah, Peter Parker would absolutely turn into minced meat if he ever went toe-to-toe with Black Noir. In this case, Noir might not even have to break a sweat and instead use his sly, underhanded methods to bring the web slinger to his knees. Like we said, he's a diabolical genius. So perhaps using Pete's loved ones against him would be an easy task for Black Noir. And in case they result in throwing hands at each other, well, let's just say that even Homelander didn't stand a chance against Black Noir when they tussled. No, so Spider-Man would most likely bite the dust here. That's it for now, guys. We hope you liked this video, and can't wait to read your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Let us know how Spider-Man would fare against the boys' other characters. And please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more. We'll see you real soon, only here at KRTV Marvel.